Venice Beach in California, their residents are split over a $4.8 million federal funds bailout of their public restrooms on the beach. Yep. Some say that this is wasting taxpayer money. So we're going to go in and we're going to spend millions and millions of dollars on a public restroom. It's going to get all fixed up. And then what's going to happen? Shenanigans. Let's get into it. Here we go. Venice Beach residents are fed up with their transient problem, but unsure whether the federal funds will help. Well, the federal funds are going to help. It's not a long-term solution, right? Rinse, repeat. Let's get it all cleaned up. It's like doing a homeless encampment sweep, but not putting anybody in either jail or treatment or mental health care facility. Those people are going to be right back doing their drugs, being crazy, combination of the two. All right. Yeah. So when the article says, oh, we're really not sure if this is going to help out. Well, yeah, that's probably the right direction to go into. A proposed $4.8 million federal bailout to clean up the public restrooms on the iconic Venice Beach Boardwalk is drawing criticism from some residents who say the money will be wasted until the root issues of homelessness and drug dealing are addressed. And it's not just drug dealing, it's drug abuse. That's how we got where we are, is allowing homelessness to just explode during the pandemic. And then fentanyl has taken over. Used to be heroin. Now it's fentanyl. And, things are just going gangbusters for the drug industry, right? So, and this is going to clean up. Yes, but long term, no dice. Mark Ryovec, the president of the Venice Stakeholders Association, characterized the state of the public bathrooms as frightful. I've seen some video. It's brutal. People are living in there, and emphasized their urgent need for attention. But he said throwing federal money at the problem wouldn't effectively address the rampant drug and mental illness among the homeless people who are currently using the facilities. Now, if you're new to this podcast and you think that homelessness is just people down on their luck, vast majority of the homelessness that we're seeing now is based on drug addiction. Period. You go to any homeless encampment, you read any number of stories on the homeless encampments. This is not people that are just down on their luck, needing to get back up in 30 days or so. It's a lifestyle. Homelessness, drug addiction, drug abuse. This is a lifestyle. And we've allowed it to occur. Decriminalizing drugs, decriminalizing activities that fund drugs. We're not putting anybody in jail. This is what the people of Los Angeles wanted. This is what the people of Venice Beach wanted because they voted it in. And now you get a situation like this. They will be beautiful for a month or two, the public restrooms, and then they're going to start their descent back into hell. That is adequate. A month or two? You think you're going to get a month or two out of clean? I don't think that's the case. I think it goes way faster than that. Ryovec predicted to Fox News Digital about what would happen if the money is spent. People are sleeping in the restrooms. They're doing prostitution in them because you can close the door and lock it, right? Where else can you do that? And you open the door up, you are looking at the Pacific Ocean. It's a beautiful beach. Or I should say, was. I mean, it's just so iconic. That boardwalk there is so iconic. And yet it's just overrun with drug addicted homeless folks that, some say, well, they shouldn't be there. Well, they're there because you've allowed them to be there. So this is what you get. And by sweeping them out, you're not really fixing the problem. And I totally agree with those who are in that camp. They're doing prostitution in them because there is no enforcement as there should be. I remember, I think it was during the pandemic, maybe 2021, and the sheriff, Villalobos, I think his name was, he was like, hey, I'm going to come down there and clean it up unless you get your ass in gear and go. And that's what he said to the city council members. And then they were like, he's overstepping his boundaries. Nah, people just want a clean beach to go to. That's not that much to ask. But man, if you're going to be homeless anyplace, Venice Beach, I mean, if they allow it, why wouldn't you do it there? And you got a public restroom right there. This is not rocket science. This is not, ingeniousness. You got to get to the root of the problem and outlaw some of this stuff, or start enforcing it, I should say. But you're not going to do that. So he added, frankly, we're wasting taxpayer money. Yes, but you got to do something, right? You got to clean it up. All right. So $4 something million to clean up it is always just shocking to me how much money is spent on these projects to do with the homelessness. I mean, what are we doing to that restroom? What are we doing physically? I get it. The infrastructure is already there. You got your sewer line, you got your water lines, you got your drain lines. Okay. How do you spend that much money? It's consistently millions and millions of dollars. Even these little cleanups and parks that we do here in Seattle, I'll be reading along going, yep, $600,000 was spent cleaning it up. And I'm like, what? I mean, how? How do you spend that much money? It's mind-boggling to me. And yet it consistently happens, right? In photos and videos shared with Fox News Digital from residents, homeless tents have encircled the restrooms like a makeshift village, with the restroom at the center. And the walls are blackened by fire ash and graffiti. Trash and used needles left by transients are littered on the ground. Well, as you do. I mean, the beach is your garbage. Just drop it there and away you go. The controversial price tag for constructing a single restroom facility on the boardwalk was an estimated $2 million in 2021. A more expensive proposal was put forward this year, but some say this federal lifeline wouldn't make a dent. It will look almost exactly the same as it does today unless they change their policies. 30-year Venice Beach resident Sean O'Brien told Fox News Digital, we used to call these bathrooms the shooting galleries where people would go in and shoot heroin. Now people live in them. They live in the shooting galleries. And I've seen video of where the park rangers come in, they knock on the door. Somebody will be like getting up off the ground because they're just waking up. It's all dark in there. They've got it locked. And the park ranger is like, hey, got to clean up. You guys got to be out. We're doing a sweep. And yeah, people go in and out all day long, doing prostitution and just crazy stuff. Just a few feet away on Santa Marca's boardwalk, a man was stabbed to death by a homeless person outside the beach's restroom last week. O'Brien said that the restrooms need security guards monitoring the activity that happens inside. Otherwise, more violent attacks could happen. Now, that individual was arrested, I believe, yesterday or today. Somebody gets stabbed to death. I mean, if that's not a wake-up call, and yet we've had wake-up call after wake-up call after wake-up call on any of these scenarios. Everybody knows it. But unless you get to that root core of what's causing this, which is just rampant drug use, addiction, living wherever you want, not following any rules, not enough cops, no enforcement, district attorney that, just doesn't really, let them go. It's okay. Let them go. No enforcement of any kind whatsoever. You fix the bathroom without fixing the cause of it, O'Brien said. So the bathroom is just going to get destroyed again, period. There goes $4 million of federal funds, our funds. You feel good about that money being spent? If you're in California, is that something? Well, it's federal funds, so it's all of our money, right? Does that make you feel good? That make me feel particularly good. But that's how I feel about all of this homelessness. And California spent $20 billion, and homelessness goes up. It's because you're not dealing with the root issues of why people are choosing to live in encampments in just this squalor and filth, because it's a lifestyle. We're still thinking and going down that road, or a lot of politicians are, if we just had more housing. That's not the cause of it. These people are choosing to live there. They're choosing to live there. Every now and then somebody will take housing for a little bit, but guaranteed they go right back out onto the streets or the beach. In the case of Venice Beach, they go right back out because that's where the lifestyle is. That's where their drugs are. That's where their friends are that they score drugs with. They use with. I mean, they panhandle. They do all their stuff for their lifestyle so they can just keep it going. And you don't need a lot of money to make that happen anymore. And the women prostitute themselves. Some people give me a hard time saying, Sean, guys do that too. Like, yeah, I get it. But for the, vast majority, it's women that make that happen. And then they just pay for their addictions that way. Or they steal from the community, right? They steal from the community. Literally going into Target is a vocation now. I am seeing more and more signs of the organized retail theft here in Bellevue, where I live. It's been that slow creep from Seattle to over here because as the stores kind of get greater and greater levels of, deterring shoplifting, you got to go somewhere else where they don't have that as much. Welcome to the East Side. Welcome to Bellevue. You can shop all you want. No, and just, take whatever you want. Seeing that more and more, more and more entrances have been blocked off. You've only got one way through. You've got one way exit. You've got alarms going off. You've got the gates that open. That's pretty common. I mean, it just feels like things are just, kind of getting ratcheted down further and further. And you go into a store and you're like, okay, what is new since the last time I was here? Okay. Yeah. Greater security measures. Just, we're not headed in the right direction. We're headed in the wrong direction. Residents say the area is usually clean after the sanitation department's weekly cleanups, but it can backslide to its former state just as fast due to the revolving door of homeless transients cycling in and out of the boardwalk. Representative Ted Lieu, Democrat from California, whose district encompasses Venice Beach, wrote a letter May 31st requesting federal funds from the House Appropriations Committee to restore the facilities. He said the restrooms on the boardwalk are in dire need of restoration for both functionality and safety. Well, with all the homelessness that they have there on Venice Beach, I don't know that anybody uses the restroom for its intended purpose. I mean, I know the homeless do. I know the drug addicted do. But are you going to want to take a run at that restroom? I mean, maybe you've got your kid with you, or you're tourist and you're walking the boardwalk and you're like, I'm going to go use that. Oh, I'm not going to use that restroom. Ooh, that's a no-go. Or you get in there and you're like, what third world country am I in? This is disgusting, guaranteed. The project is an appropriate use of taxpayer funds because Venice Beach is a popular site for residents and tourists. How about we use that money to permanently clean up the issue? Yeah. How about we do that? Nah, we need a temporary fix. Just clean it up and rinse and repeat. They'll come back. I mean, it's just insanity, right? Expecting results from doing the same thing time and time and time again. And hey, the restroom got ruined again. That's weird. All right. Guess we need another $4 million, the taxpayers' money. So Lieu said in his letter, Fox News Digital reached out to Lieu's office for comment, but did not hear back by the time of publication. Brian Averill, a member of the Venice Neighborhood Council, said the currently unusable bathrooms may need hired attendants to keep watch outside of them if they're going to be used by the 10 million people who visit the beach each year. I don't think many people are using the public restrooms, other than the drug addicted homeless. I mean, that's just a guess. That's a guess on my part. Do we need bathroom attendants? Do we need to gate them off? It's just not working. Bathrooms shouldn't be rendered unusable 2 years after you drop a couple million on them, Averill said to Fox News Digital. It's not good public policy. Have you seen those toilets? I covered one, I think, it was in Ballard. It was in, what was the name of that park? It was one of those $500,000 all stainless steel bathrooms with the special lighting, so you can't really do drugs in them. I mean, just super expensive. They had one, a couple in Seattle. It was like a prototype, right? It was like a $500,000 porta potty, just all stainless steel, basically bomb proof. because it needs to be, because the homeless are not kind to anything in the public domain. They just tear it apart. I was watching, it was out of California, and it was the little robots that deliver food. Homeless people were riding on them, like a Bronco. They were, toppling them over, stealing the food out. I mean, not shocking that somebody sees an inanimate object and says, hey, I'm going to rob that. You've just got, it's out of control. It's wildly out of control. Just like, we need an attendant for the public restrooms. No, you don't. You need to clean up what the issues you got going on, which are allowing the drug addicted homeless to basically take over an area. You clean that up, but you're not gonna, right? You're not gonna, because the minute you clean it up, they're going to come right back, rinse, repeat, just keep on going. Get out that popcorn, because this is not going away. This show is just going to keep on going. Another longtime resident advocate with the local group Friends of Venice Boardwalk, Carl Bielizak, said that she supports the $4.8 million restoration project, but said it needs to go beyond brick and mortar, arguing assistance to the homeless in the area must also be implemented. But assistance to the homeless, what does that look like? The vast majority of them, they want to live in their squalor because they're just doing a bunch of drugs. So, are you going to get them to voluntarily go to treatment? No. Are you going to get them to voluntarily go into a tiny home or a little apartment? No. And we know this because oftentimes during these sweeps, none of them take housing. They don't want to. They just move somewhere up the street a little bit, set up camp there, and then move back when the coast is clear. So yeah, this notion of physically cleaning things up and that it's going to be there long term, these governmental agencies, they know exactly what's going to happen. These restrooms are just going to get destroyed the minute the cleaning crews leave. It'll take a little bit of time. But it's inevitable. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. I don't know why we can't do a few things at one time, she said. I'm looking at it in the bigger focus that these ill-designed bathrooms from the get-go, a first responder cannot get to a person in any kind of circumstance. All right. The design of the restrooms is irrelevant. The whole thing is irrelevant. We're talking about cleaning them up. Yeah, that's going to happen. And then they're just going to get destroyed, period. Right. So the boardwalk has struggled since the COVID-19 pandemic to contain the homeless problems after the city of Los Angeles rolled back its restrictions on camping in public spaces to mitigate the spread of the virus. Those restrictions were put in place until more than a year later. Remember when all that happened and then they took those restrictions off, and then there was just this big deal about, we can't sweep out the homeless. They're just down on their luck, and they need just a leg up and they're all going to be fine. And I think it's taken this long for public sentiment to kind of go, these just aren't people on their luck. These are people that have come into the area and are living a lifestyle of addiction by choice. It's as simple as it gets, right? Last year, the district cleared 226 homeless people from the boardwalk. Now there are as many as 40 there on any given day, and weekly encampment cleanups across the entire neighborhood. Rinse, repeat. Many of us are here on the ground working to make sure that the county in particular takes responsibility for the fact that public health, mental health, and drug addiction are not being treated with the kind of urgency that the situation requires, she said. But the issue is nobody has the bandwidth to handle the fentanyl crisis. And that's what the majority of this is. You got a little heroin in there, a little bit. You got a little meth in there. You got some meth. You got a little cocaine in there, but coke's expensive relative to fentanyl. And fentanyl now is so cheap that and it's so much stronger, 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin. So, if it's cheaper and more powerful to the point where it kills you, why wouldn't you go after that drug? And if they're allowing you to just live willy-nilly wherever, well, they did that during the pandemic and these encampments just exploded. And we've had a difficult time wrangling things back in since then. All of the downtown cores that allowed this kind of thing to happen. Now the CDC said, don't, sweep the camps. And then, homeless encampments just, let's bring in the couches. Let's bring in the barbecues. Let's bring in the patio furniture and let's have a big party. And that's literally what they did. And we've had a tough time. And I mean, any of the cities that allowed this to happen to just kind of, go crazy. They've been struggling with, how do we keep this going? And the answer is exactly what you're doing, wasting enormous amounts of money, but it's all you can do because you don't have the facilities to put the homeless in. The drug addicted, homeless in, you don't have the facilities, either addiction services or mental health care. Cause a lot of these people are just, totally unfit. If they were unfit going into living in the encampments, by the time they spend a little bit of time there with the drugs they're doing, they have really gone down a road that typically ends up in, something really bad happening to them. So Tracy Park, the Los Angeles councilwoman representing the district accompanying Venice, also supports the request for federal dollars to get the bathrooms cleaned up. I understand you got to do something, but without a long-term plan, it's an enormous waste, right? Because it's like taking your car through the car wash for $4 million. You're going to need to do it again in a month, right? I mean, a spokesperson for Park's office told Fox News Digital the money to rehab the bathrooms is necessary, but said they're also looking for proactive strategies to prevent them from deteriorating. Okay. So unless you start taking care of the folks that are occupying these restrooms on a long-term basis, whether that means, taking some of these drug addicts and, putting them in treatment, but nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. Until you get to that stage, nobody's putting people into mental health care facilities against their will. Not doing that. Not doing that. Nobody's forcing people out of these encampments into housing that is predicated upon, hey, you got to be clean and sober. You got to be trying to get things going again. Nobody's doing that. So until you get to that, some version of that, this absolute waste of money, but I get it. At least they're doing something. It'll be fixed up for just a little bit. And then we'll be having the same conversation another year down the road. Remember that, multiple podcasts I've done on the restrooms in Venice Beach? Yeah. Spending another $5 million. Feel good about that. That's great. That's great. Park, who campaigned in 2022 on a promise, this is the council person, on a promise to crack down on encampments in the area, has cleared several large encampments around her district since her term began. This includes the clearing of dozens of RVs belonging to nomads parked along LA's ecological reserve, the Bologna wetlands, last week. So they're doing the bare minimum they can to clean things up, knowing darn well that those RVs will go right back there. Unless they put up the big eco blocks or somehow, box that area off, the RVs will go right back. They'll just, that's how this game goes, right? Our office has been in close contact with the police department and our friends at the park rangers and have asked for proactive strategies that are actually now in place, including checking on the bathrooms at least 3 times a day, park spokesperson said. We're just throwing more and more resources at a problem that, given the way that we're handling it, cannot be fixed, will not be fixed. This is just literally rinse, repeat. Yeah, here we go. It's happening again. According to the latest estimations from LA Homeless Services Authority, LA's central hub for homeless resources and statistics, LA's population of homeless on the west side jumped from 4,600, call it, to 6,700 from 2022 to 2023. So what is that? A 33% jump? I mean, yeah, basically is, right? Countywide, homelessness jumped 9% on any given night to call it 75,500 individuals in LA County. 75,000 people. You are not going to clean that up overnight. Any of those folks who are near Venice Beach, they're just going to go there. They're going to do their thing. They're going to go wait till they get bumped out, because who doesn't want to be homeless on Venice Beach? I mean, if you're going to be homeless somewhere, that's a damn nice spot to do it in, right? In the city of Los Angeles, there's been a 10% increase with an estimated 46,000 people on the streets. You let this cat out of the bag. Folks in LA, you voted for this. You voted for the politicians in place. You basically told your politicians that this is what we want to see. Don't sweep people out. Just let them do their thing. And so now you've got a cycle of elected officials that have gone down this road. And, you've got district attorneys that are basically not doing their job, which is to enforce the law. And, you got to have some consequences for actions. Otherwise you end up like Venice Beach. Oh God, how do we clean this up? Let's throw some federal money at it. Why not? Saves a little bit of our local money, right? We need, money for this. Now the city can clean it up. City can clean it. I think the city should clean it up. Federal funds. Yeah, it's an iconic site, but why should the taxpayers be on the hook for this? They're going to be either which way, but I'd rather see it come out of local, right? Deal with your own problem. Shouldn't be a federal funds issue. Oh, we need a lot of money to clean this thing up so it can just get ruined again. But that seems to be how we're handling most issues. And, the root causes of this stuff that we're talking about here, they apply to all encampments. And that's where I think a lot of folks haven't quite wrapped their head around the fact that you've got a bunch of people who want to be living that lifestyle, and nothing you do is going to deter them, because the addiction is so strong that it's going to keep them coming back. Because, the alternative is they go through detox, and that's a hideous thing with opioids, right? So they're not going to be doing that. They're not going to voluntarily go. If you see any type of interaction with folks that could possibly benefit from going to the hospital, they invariably say no, because they don't want to be stuck somewhere where they can't get their next fix pretty quickly, because they know they're going to get sick and they're going to go down that road of, oh man, I'm going to start jonesing, and that's not going to be good. Yeah, I know I've got a broken ankle, but I'll just work it out on myself. I'll just we'll just fix things up, and, I'll do a little rappy rap on it. It's all good. And so you see people in these homeless encampments walking around with some, crazy medical stuff going on. And some of it has to do with the trank dope, the xylazine, it's meant for basically large animals. And at the injection site, wherever you put that in, oftentimes it rots the skin out. And so you've got some folks walking around, especially in Philadelphia. I mean, it's just hardcore to look at, because they're literally, getting to the point where they need amputations. So you got a lot of physical disability going on at the same time, because people are getting hurt and people are doing things to themselves that causes them to just basically rot away. And yet they're living this lifestyle. And because it's such the opioids they're doing, the fentanyl they're doing is so strong, they're not going to volunteer for rehab anytime soon. Even when things get super bad, like you lose a foot or that kind of thing, you'll still see them, passed out using. I mean, if that isn't a wake up call, I mean, when rock bottom is you get your leg cut off because you're doing drugs, if that isn't a wake up call, I mean, and you see instances of that all the time. It's wild. And yet people are like, yeah, let's spend some money on cleaning up the restroom. It's Venice Beach, such an iconic spot. Let's do that. Yeah, complete waste. But the alternative is you just leave it, right? And it just gets worse and worse and worse. Maybe that is what should happen. And then you just deal with this worse than a third world country, because most third world countries don't allow open air drug use. And that's the massive difference, right? That's the massive difference. We've just gone down this road of, let her rip. It's fine. Let her rip. Yeah, people should be able to do drugs. That whole harm reduction thing. We believe that, some people may never get off the drugs, so we want to make it as safe for them as possible. doing something that eventually will kill them. Right. And we know this because the average life expectancy in a homeless encampment is like 50 years old, where the regular population is like 76. You get a 30-year life whacked off if you're in the homeless encampments, because it's so brutal, or, it's so bad for your body, or you just die from an overdose. So if you want to keep that whole thing going, then I'd say, you're on the right path here, folks, and rinse, repeat. With the federal money, I'm a hard no-go on. Because it doesn't make any sense, because it's just you're going to turn right around and have the same situation. But, do you really want Venice Beach looking like that? I mean, I'm not using it, so I'd say whatever. But I mean, it's one of those American institutions, right? Venice Beach. I mean, it's just a cool spot. It's got a lot of history, and now it's got even more history, right? But not history in the right direction. All right. That's it for me on this one. I'm out of here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.